Assalamu alaikum, Zubeyir.
Alaikum salam, Zack.
Today is a video about Mezhebs.
What?
Mezheb.
Madhab.
Madahib.
What is it?
It's
The madhab that we know in Islam.
yes.
Madhab.
Mezheb.
So what is it?
A path.
What?
It means path. A place. The place of going.
Where?
Exactly. Where? That's what we're going to
You
talk
like
about.
the question.
That's what we're going to talk about today. Because there are four main madhab, and I'm going to use this word. I don't want to use the word sect because it doesn't mean sect as in the English vocabulary. It's a word that there is no real translation. The best one maybe that I can think of is a school of thought, but I don't even want to say a school of jurisprudence thought, which is actually what it's often translated as. There are four madhabs and there are four schools of jurisprudential thought.
So why are you trying to differentiate them?
Because a madhab is just a path.
Well, go ahead.
Okay. So there are four different madhabs, and maybe more, but there are four main that are no. Okay, there are four main madhabs. There were more in the past, whatever. So there are four main madhabs today.
Okay.
And people will often say, in the Islamic world, how can there be four things? There's only one truth.
True also.
And if you want to learn this truth, which is the goal in Islam, if you want to learn this truth, actually you shouldn't go into any of these madhabs. You should just be Muslim. This is a very common statement.
Well,
we don't need madhab. I'm of no madhab. I'm just a Muslim, and I'm going on the path.
well, yeah.
Okay. So when we talk about this, you've learned English. It's not your first language.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to go use this as an example to understand madhabs. You learned English.
Okay.
Who would you learn English from? If you wanted to learn English in the best way.
Some prep classes in the universities, some
Okay.
educational institutes, private ones,
Okay, some education, some school.
some school.
Who would you want?
A private teacher, maybe.
A private teacher? What kind of private teacher?
A native speaker,
A native speaker. Okay, so
preferably.
preferably, so we have a native speaker, and so you would want to learn English from a native speaker because you want to learn the language.
Well, but then the question comes: what kind of native speaker? A British one, a U.S. citizen, or there are some
There's the point. So you just said there are British
accent.
Let's not just accent. Because it's not just accent. Let's not reduce it to something so low.
Huh.
There are British people that you could learn from. There are American people you could learn from. There are Australians, and there are others. Okay, but so there are these three that we're going to just say for now: American, British, and Australian. We have three different people from whom you can learn
English.
English. And if you learn from any one of them, you will learn English. Nobody could say that you didn't learn English if you learn from these.
And my English that I learned from a native speaker could totally different from someone who could speak another, British English, for example.
Okay, so you learn from Americans, let's say.
Let's
take this as the example. If you learn from Americans, you learn vocabulary that Americans use. There are certain grammar. This is why I want to say it's not just accent. More than accent, there's vocabulary. Yeah. There is accent. There's also some grammatical features. And then there's the everyday communication, the nuances, and everything else in that language, the culture that's all different. Similar, but different.
Yeah.
And
they're all English.
They're all English. So if you want to learn English, if you say, I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to go to any of these schools, I'm just going to learn English on my own.
Well, does it make any sense?
It doesn't make sense.
And the English that you're going to learn from any of those schools will still be English.
Yes. But once you start to, let's say you, in your learning process, while you're still a beginner, if you start to mix from a British, an Australian, and an American, you actually start to become incomprehensible.
Yeah, mostly yes.
Because you're going to mix. If you use a British accent for one word and an American accent for a different word, then you sometimes could say a sentence that has no meaning in it. Because I'm going to understand, if I hear you speaking with a British accent, I'm going to assume that the rest of the speech is going to be with a British accent, and you might pronounce a word.
Trousers, pants, etc.
There you go, yes. Those who know the difference between pants has a very different meaning in British English than in American English.
Oops.
A very different meaning, even though we both use the same word.
So what is the result of this?
So it means
it's totally interesting.
So if we want to learn this language, because the goal is to learn a language by which to communicate with God.
Oh.
We have we have to learn certain concepts. We have to learn a certain body language.
The language is just the path itself.
Yes, it's the path itself to communicate with God. Now, at the beginning, we have to attach ourselves to one of these paths.
Which is natural.
So that we can learn the thing, so we can learn this language to communicate with God.
So it becomes a standard so you can communicate.
Exactly, so that we can communicate. If we become a native speaker, if we were a native speaker, that's not you can't become a native speaker. But if you go through that education, if you are in that community for such a long time, eventually you master that one school of British English, or one of the 4 schools of Islam, of Islamic speech, let's say.
Okay, okay.
After that, then you can start to take from the other ones. But by that point, you know what you're doing.
It's just like the same. It's just the same that you, as a native speaker, can change the language you are using in a way you wish.
Yes,
you can make some mistakes on purpose.
Yes,
and everyone could understand.
Yes,
but if I do it, it would,
we wouldn't accept it. We would say you're speaking wrong, because you wouldn't have maybe the right emphasis. You would mix the different accents, perhaps. You'd mix vocabulary words that can't be used in that way.
So interestingly, if I have the method is the thing itself, is the truth itself, no, it's wrong. It's the path through which you can communicate with God.
Yes.
And if you can master it enough, since it's not the thing itself, it's not the belief itself, well, you can kind of, in quotes, change it.
Yeah. Yes, and but even when we change it, we're still changing it within a certain set of rules.
Well, sure.
We're never actually leaving. We're never leaving
the language.
Yes, we're never leaving the language, and we're never leaving the rules. If I want to speak with the British accent for emphasis, then I'm not leaving British rules. I'm leaving the American rules temporarily to say something in this way because I need to, for emphasis.
Yeah, sure. So, nice.
So as a learner, which we all are, we have to subscribe ourselves to a certain school to get the standard until we can master it.
Well, yeah.
So that's all we got.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.